the opportunity to share with you some of the stuff that we shared with our clients at BbWorld. Really our attempt to keep our partners informed around what's happening around Learn and the other higher ed products. And we will continue to do these webinars. We had one last month that was more technical in nature, or in July, and you'll see us at the sort of the end of September doing another technical session, which will be more focused on what's happening with the REST APIs, as well as talking about how building blocks can be made to work in our Ultra platform using the LTI wrapper approach. So let me introduce our speakers today. We have Jim Chalix, who's our Senior Director for Product Management in Learn, and he's going to talk to you about the Learn roadmap. We have Carl Morelli, who's a Senior Product Manager in our Collaborate product, and he'll talk to you about what's happening in Collaborate. And then we'll finish up with Dan Lowry, who's our Senior Product Manager in our mobile space. If you do have any questions during the session, if you can type them into the chat. We have a lot of data to cover in an hour, so let's use the chat as our question forum, and we will try to answer as we go along. And if we have time at the end, if there's something that we weren't able to answer in the chat, we'll circle back on that. So with that, let me introduce Jim Chalix, and we can get started. Jim?
All right, thanks, Kathy. Hi, everyone. So I'm just going to jump right in, given that we do just have an hour and we do have a lot to cover, as Kathy said. So obviously, we're going to be talking about roadmap. This is our plan, but some of it could change, so keep that in mind as we go through. And the way that we like to start, and what we shared with customers at Blackboard World, and we have before, some of you may have seen this as well, is a really bird's eye view of our teaching and learning portfolio. And many of you will be familiar with this, but for those who aren't, really what we're looking to do with our overall teaching and learning portfolio is to think about it in terms of not only the different products that we're supporting, of course that's Blackboard Learn, BB Student, and Collaborate, but also thinking about that in terms of the experiences of those products. As all of you will likely be familiar, the original experience of those products is something that has been in market for a number of years. And a lot of the effort and energy that we're spending now is working on the ultra experience of these various products. And layered onto that is this idea of different deployment methods, especially for Blackboard Learn, where we have our traditional self-hosted and managed hosted deployment methods, but then also a newer deployment method that was made available a little over a year, coming on 2 years now, which is our SaaS deployment of Learn. And this is really just meant to kind of express at the highest level how all these pieces and parts fit together within our teaching and learning platform. And in terms of the vision for how we're moving forward with those deployment methods and the experiences, Blackboard has been on a journey for the last couple of years, and a lot of the pieces that we've been talking about and working really hard to build are coming together now and really just, I think, in many ways culminated at Blackboard World of this year. As this timeline shows, we've really been progressing methodically through a series of steps. Importantly, with respect to Learn, working on the SaaS deployment, as I just mentioned a moment ago, but then also rolling out the Ultra design language to the various products, whether that was BB Student in January of 2015, or Collaborate in May of 2015. And then finally, we made available at Blackboard World this year in July, the Learn Ultra experience. And this is something that, again, there's more to do on all of the products and fronts, but the various piece parts are now available and customers are making decisions about certainly piloting and moving to production with those experiences for each of the products, but also the products in their totality. In terms of the way that we think about Blackboard Learn more specifically, one of the things that we want to make sure we do a better job as a company is to try to communicate as clearly as we can some of the foundational elements of the product. And the thing that I think is perhaps been somewhat confusing in the past has been around the different experiences of Learn. And really it's one product when you get right down to it. It's Blackboard Learn as a product that our clients license. And then we just have this choice of experiences, whether that's the original experience that our customers have been using and many of you have been leveraging in terms of the integrations, but then the Ultra experience going forward where increasingly we're going to see customers adopting that over time. And then self-hosted, managed hosted, and SaaS being the three deployment methods for Learn. In terms of what we're working on in these two experiences, the original experience and the Ultra experience, I'm now going to walk you through a little bit more detail about each of those to kind of give you some context for some of the things that are on our roadmap that we're working on now. And with the original experience, what some of you may have referred to as Learn 9.1. And this would be for managed hosted, self-hosted customers, and also for the SaaS deployment method of Learn. The cadence of releases for the original experience and for Learn 9.1 will continue along the kind of twice yearly release schedule for major releases. So this means that in the fall, kind of October timeframe of this year, we're going to be releasing the Q4 2016 release. And then going into next year, we're going to have a Q2 2017 release. Those major releases are where we include a lot of the new capabilities and more major changes. We're also going to continue with our cumulative update strategy for all of our supported releases. And that's about one CU a month for those supported releases, where we make a series of bug fixes. In terms of the themes of the original experience, one of the things that's really important to us is we remain committed to developing the original experience of Learn. The roadmap kind of breaks down into these 5 main areas. I'm going to step through each of these and provide just a few highlights of each as we go. In terms of quality and infrastructure, this is something that our customers have been very clear that they want us to continue along the lines of providing not only bug fixes in the most important areas, but ensuring that the underlying technology is up to date. And I have a few examples that I'll share of that in a moment, but also making sure that the releases themselves are easier to take, and whenever they do take it, whether it's a major release or a cumulative update, it's going to be a painless process for them. And I think that's something that we've made a lot of progress on in just the recent releases that we've had of Learn. In terms of technology support, and this is one that many of you will be familiar with from the Q2 2016 release, is the update to Java 8, which is the latest version from Oracle in terms of kind of the behind the scenes, the JDK for the coding that I think impacted many of you in terms of the integrations that you had to test against. We are also working towards Microsoft SQL Server 2014 support, which is in development and planned for the Q4 2016 release. So something to be aware of there. REST APIs, this is also something I think that this audience is going to be especially interested in. It sounds like you may have had already or will continue to have some more technical information about these APIs. I think the big headline that I'm sure many of you know already is that we've made a decision to make these APIs available to all of our customers and deployment methods. So this means that self-hosted customers, managed hosted, as well as SaaS deployment all have the ability to leverage these APIs. They're available now in technical preview for writing integrations into Blackboard Learn. So this means that for the original experience or for the Ultra experience, the APIs that we have made available can be used by all of our customers. And this is important because as we continue to develop these, it gives really everyone a chance to do that experimentation, certainly a way for us to get a lot of feedback how people are leveraging those in areas that we can continue to improve. For those of you who have started to experiment yourselves with the REST APIs, we really want your feedback as well. So we want as much as possible to work in partnership with all of you to make it as robust and useful as possible for really what the next generation of integrations is going to look like. Another area of focus for the original around mobile support. There are a number of things that we're doing in this area. Dan's going to talk about BB Student, which is our native application. I won't go into a lot of details other than to say that BB Student is supported for all of our deployment methods and experiences of Learn, and many customers are putting that to good use already. We continue with respect to the original experience to focus on responsive design. We made a new responsive theme available in the Q2 2016 release, and this really improved responsiveness. There still is some work that we need to do across the various interfaces of Learn to ensure that it is becoming more and more responsive. But this is just going to make it easier for instructors and students to access Learn and to take advantage of it from their tablets and smartphones, which increasingly they are using to access Learn. And we're going to continue along that path. So in the Q4 release and also going forward, we're going to be stepping through a number of improvements around navigation, different kinds of, you're seeing a screenshot here of a more responsive interface for blogs, for example, and various other interfaces that are important for how educators, instructors are managing their work, and they can do it from different devices. So this is, again, it's over time. We're going to kind of be methodically working through the most important interfaces, and this will get progressively more responsive as we go. We also continue to focus on efficiency in the original experience. As all of you know, Learn is a very feature-rich product, but we also know from talking to customers that there are refinements that we can continue to make it more efficient and effective for those who are using it. A good example of this is assignment submission receipts. This is a good enhancement request that have come from customers, and I think indicative of the kind of thing that we tend to hear, where we have a very robust capability like assignments with a mature workflow, but there's still some things that we can do to improve it. In this case, for example, responding to some of the needs around how students have greater confidence around when they make a submission, generating proof of that or evidence of that. That can also be used by the instructor for understanding, did a student in fact make a submission and at what time, and having a record of that that can be used to, in effect, prove the claim that in some cases gets made by a student, perhaps falsely. And this is going to be helpful to resolve those sorts of disputes from both sides. So an important polishing element to the assignment workflow as an example. Another great example is around course design and efficiency there, and in a more modern experience, being able to include things like drag and drop in the interface of Learn as a way to, for example, include documents from desktop in various workflows. As one example shown here, being able to drag files into a drop zone as part of a content editor. We also are working on integrations to third-party services that are commonly used by institutions. A good example of this is with Dropbox. So we're working right now very closely with the Dropbox team to create an integration and touch point that will allow instructors and students to be able to connect to that service and to leverage files and resources that can be included as part of common workflows in Learn. I'm thinking here of, for example, students being able to browse and add a file for a submission for an assignment. It could be an instructor being able to browse and provide a file for feedback to a student, just to give you a couple of examples. So this is the kind of thing where still some work being done to improve that original experience and add in some enhancements that people are looking for. We also, as I said, very similar to BB Student, the original experience of Learn integrates very closely with Collaborate, as I'm sure all of you know. We're also happy that the Collaborate team is actually working on a redesigned experience and integration for Collaborate from within Learn, and Carl's going to be talking a bit more about this in his section. In terms of assessment, another important thematic area for the original experience, we have invested previously in competency-based education. In the Q4 2015 release, we rolled out some new dashboards for instructors and students and coaches that provide greater insight into how students are progressing against competencies. We find increasingly that institutions are using Learn to support their competency-based programs. As all of you, I'm sure, know and hear, this is a growing area in really a number of different markets that schools are looking to use CBE to create a more efficient and effective path for students to be able to achieve of these competencies, and we're pleased to be supporting that in Learn. We're going to continue down that path based on some of the feedback that we get. This is continues to be an area of importance. So things like enhancing the course dashboard and program dashboard, so providing students, instructors, coaches a more robust and longer window of what students are progressing against the different competencies in the system and kind of where they stand at any given point, and also continuing to refine how we can personalize learning path plans and the path that students take through the curriculum. This is a big part of competency-based education, is some of the differentiation that can occur between different students and the order in which they actually complete materials as part of their demonstration of mastery for competencies. So these are the kinds of things working on continuing to include within Learn. Attendance tracking. This is another example of an enhancement request that is very common, commonly made by institutions or directly from instructors. Our plan for attendance tracking is to not only include this for the original experience, but as I'll speak to in a moment, also for the Ultra experience of Learn. We are planning to include in very close conjunction with the Grade Center within Learn, so being able to not only track attendance manually in terms of who is present or absent and so forth, but to be able to easily create a calculation for, based on that attendance, how a student can be graded on that if that instructor chooses, and also a way to integrate the attendance data into a system of record like the student information system. In addition to this, we're also working on combining the capabilities that we're working on for Learn with some existing capabilities in the area of, for example, Transact, which has a key card swipe capability, which is really useful for physical classroom attendance applications, as well as Collaborate, which has attendance capabilities for virtual or synchronous classroom applications. And it's really going to be the combination of these elements that's going to lead to, I think, a more robust and comprehensive attendance solution, for our customers. In terms of reporting, there are a number of things that we're working on here as well. A lot of this is to make improvements to the existing reports. One of the examples here is the activity report on a student. This is something that's available now. We're going to continue to refine that by including additional filter controls and also adding some new reports for administrators to be able to track different users in terms of session times, students who did or didn't log in, and a lot of this can be put to good use in terms of at-risk student detection and monitoring. One of the reports that we've made available in the Ultra experience that we're actually planning to bring back to the original experience is an improved student activity report that combines the way that students interacted on things like tests, which is the example shown here, and also having that correspond to the performance of learners in terms of their grade, and then being able to take action, for example, sending messages to students that may be struggling with the materials. So this is a summary that shows what's available now in development and also in design and research. The things that are in development are, the way to basically map that is that those are things that are, happening now in terms of people are coding and planned for the upcoming Q4 release, and then things in design and research are a little bit beyond that. In terms of the Ultra experience now, kind of turning the page a little bit, talking about some of the things that we're working on for the new experience that customers are, in some cases piloting and working towards the adoption of. We've also been working really hard to make a number of enhancements. And a lot of these, and for those of you who maybe have been monitoring some of this through our educator preview site, have been made available just in the last 4 months. So whether this is things like group assignments, graded discussions, the foundational release of tests, and a number of other things that you see here, these are the sorts of capabilities that our customers have really been looking for in terms of the Ultra experience of Learn, so that they can make that decision around their planning for when they can make a move to pilot or make a decision to go to production with the new experience. I'm going to show a quick demonstration. We don't have a time here, but I just want to give you a flavor for some of the things that we've been working on just recently. So everyone should be seeing my screen. Can someone just confirm really quickly that you are?
Yes.
Thanks. So I think many of you have probably seen the Ultra experience of Learn, but I just wanted to give you a few highlights on some of the things that we've been working on. I think a big part of what we've done just recently is we've really rounded out a lot of the kind of the core content items within the Ultra experience. One of the big pieces of this is just native content that can be included in a course. So this would be what we previously referred to as an item. Now we refer to as a document. This provides a way that is fully responsive, and that's kind of one of the hallmarks of the Ultra experience is, being able to ensure the screen size, whether it's, traditional desktop, laptop, to tablet, all the capabilities, and you're going to have an excellent experience no matter what that form factor happens to be. But this idea of a document is pretty straightforward. It just allows for native content development, including media, images, and text. Being able to contextually add those things, and you can use the text editor that's available here for being able to add in pieces as needed. And also something that is pretty pervasive kind of throughout the Ultra experience is this idea of conversations, where for documents or tests or assignments or whatever it happens to be, we provide a facility for the students and the instructors in the course to have conversations about those materials. And this is something that we've done in order to provide just a more engaging and facilitating these conversations between the users in the course, to be able to just make it easier for them to connect and to have those conversations in an easier and more efficient way. We've also continued to enhance things like assignments. One of the important elements that we've added recently is the ability to assess with a rubric. So being able to, for example, here go to a composition rubric. You can see here being able to apply that to the assignment as needed, or you can create a new one if necessary. Also being able to align these materials with goals. You can see here we have some goals that have been aligned to this particular assignment, and also being able to do things like group assignments. So in this case, we have a group assignment, and jumping right to submissions and being able to assess those as needed. So a number of what I would kind of consider just kind of core capabilities of how one can do course design and assessment within the Ultra experience. The other one that I'll call out, and again, this will just be a few examples to give you a taste of some of the things we've delivered recently, is around graded discussions. So being able to have a discussion where the instructor is providing a prompt, students are able to respond to that, but in this case for a grade, and then being able to easily jump in and see not only what the post from a particular student was, but also seeing the context in which that happened. So here you're seeing the prompt from the instructor at the top. John is the student that's being assessed here, and then being able to see that fuller context as necessary in terms of maybe people who responded to John. Of course, being able to provide a grade, being able to provide comments, and then being able to quickly navigate to the next student that needs to be graded in a very efficient interface. So these are just a few highlights. I think there's more that we can talk through if there are questions about things that we have. Happy to go back to that. But again, in the interest of time, I'm going to jump back now to the roadmap to give you a sense of what's coming in the future. Let me just get back to where we were. So in terms of the roadmap for the Ultra experience, really 6 major areas are looking at around the Ultra experience. These are broken down into assessment, course design, communication, integration, analytics and at-risk, and worldwide use. And in the same way I did for the original experience, I'm just going to step through each one of those and give you a few highlights as we go. In terms of assessment, one of the areas that we know from talking to customers and just in terms of the way that we know people use the LMS that's critical is continuing to build out our test capability. This means additional question types. So right now we have multiple choice essay question and multiple select question types. We're going to continue with some of the traditional question types to be able to provide the facility to be able to use those as necessary in tests. We also know that tests within Learn are sometimes used in ways that support drilling scenarios, practice scenarios, and even high stakes testing scenarios. And to support those sorts of needs, we have the need to add additional settings, things like timed tests, being able to define specific number of minutes that a student has to actually take a test before that time's out and the opportunity to continue with the test has ended for the student. Plagiarism detection also fits into the category of assessment, something that of course we have in the form of Safe Assign within Learn. We are planning to incorporate that into the Ultra experience of Learn, so being able to, for assignments, to be able to check to see if students, there are indications that they may have plagiarized against the resources that we search against. So an important workflow for many students, especially in the humanities, that are hoping to uphold the honesty and of students, and detect to the extent that there is plagiarism, to detect that and work with the student to hopefully move past that. Course design is another area of focus. One of the things that's particularly important in this area is the reusability of content. So today we have the ability to reuse content more at the kind of course level, being able to materials over kind of at that very broadest of levels. But what we're working on next is the ability to more granularly select individual content items that can be shared between courses. So being able to select individual objects to reuse, whether it's in the same course or across different courses. And we know that this is a critical part of how instructors and instructional designers do the work of course design, and something that we're excited to be bringing forward. Content availability. This is the idea that depending upon the way a course is designed, there is often a need to have differentiation in terms of when different students or users have access to materials in a course. Today, within the Ultra experience, we have basic visibility, the ability to turn things on or off. In the future, we're going to be able to add in additional things like defining on a per user basis, a per group basis, but also in terms of rules or thresholds in terms of performance around when certain objects are made available or visible to students. And this is in support of differentiated learning, but also in competency-based education, as we talked about earlier, and a number of other scenarios that are important for course design. Also in course design, SCORM support for institutions and instructional designers that rely upon SCORM. This is certainly very important, the ability to have those objects be able to be included and run in the context of an Ultra course. So something that is near and dear to many who have invested a lot of time and effort in SCORM. Institution pages. This is, for those of you familiar with our tabs and modules capability within the original experience of Learn, is really going to be kind of the newer interface for how administrators are able to communicate with different segments of their user population. So this could be groups of students, it could be faculty only, really any other segment that the institution and the administrator defines, and being able to communicate to those groups in different ways with information about resources, links to other materials, and increasingly a way to launch into customizations that could be, for example, built using the new REST API, or in some cases even existing building blocks. So that launch point for institutions and users to be able to get to those resources before they even get into a course. Audio and video is certainly an important part of how instructors and students engage with one another in the context of a course. This can show up in any number of different ways, and there are certainly needs in a number of different workflows around this. The most common ones that we hear are things like being able to provide feedback to students as part of, say, an assignment or a test, and providing a bit of a personal touch from the instructor. It's also relevant in terms of how students are able to, say, contribute or collaborate with one another in the context, say, of discussions, as an example. But just the idea of bringing a richer audio and video experience, making it really easy to add that in to the workflows very naturally that we're already designing, is something that we're working towards. LTI 2.0, for this audience, probably a pretty interesting topic. LTI 1.2 is supported today, and we're working towards 2.0 support. This is just going to pick up some of the benefits of the 2.0 specification from IMS. This is going to just continue to support our existing content market and LTI integration that already are available for the Ultra experience. For those of you who haven't seen the content market, it's just a way for administrators to define, really curate what the extensions and integration points can be within Ultra courses, and provides a way for instructors, instructional designers to be able to browse and select those integrations that can be added to their course. So LTI 2.0, though, just going to make it better in terms of some of the opportunities with the new specification. I mentioned attendance tracking earlier. This is something, again, we're going to make available for not only but also the Ultra Experience of Learn. I won't repeat what I said earlier about attendance tracking, other than to say it is something that will be part of the Ultra Experience as well. And then worldwide use. Presently, the Ultra Experience for Learn is US English only, and we know there are a number of things that we need to do to support the Ultra Experience globally. And this is something that we're working on to be able to, for example, localize and do language and string translation, much in the same way that we do for the original Experience of Learn. So here's a summary of some of the things that I just talked about. The things that are available now, and just talked about at Blackboard World. Many of the core areas that institutions are looking for in order to proceed with pilots are present. But that doesn't mean that we're going to stop. Of course, we're going to continue with some of the areas that I talked about. This is something that, to the extent that there is, feedback from all of you in terms of things that, you are interested, especially in the area of integration or others, we would love to hear from you so that we can continue to refine and make better, how we're supporting all of you and how you're integrating with Learn. If you don't have an account on preview.blackboard.com, this is Educator Preview. I really suggest you go ahead and go check that out. It's a great way to get a flavor for some of the things that we're working on with the Ultra Experience for Learn. All right, so with that, I'm going to close just in the interest of time. I'll just pass over these, and at this point, I'm going to hand it over to Carl, who's going to walk us through some of the improvements coming for. So, Carl, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, thanks, Jim, and good morning. Good afternoon, everyone. I am going to jump right into Collaborate. So as you probably have noticed, we are using Collaborate in today's session. So you're getting a feel for some of the functionality that we have today. Right now we're in the video conference mode. I'm the only person that happens to have my video on, and that's okay. But this is the mode where if you were having a video dialogue, video discussion, maybe not just audio discussion, the layout is what you would see in terms of the other folks in your conference. And you have some abilities to change that layout, follow the speaker, etc. I'm not going to go through all of the features and functionality of Collaborate today because we really want to get into the roadmap. I just wanted to give you a little bit of orientation into what we're using for web conference. So as you know, Blackboard Collaborate is Blackboard's web conferencing solution tailored entirely for education and educational workflows. Thanks, Dan, for the chat there. I asked Dan to demonstrate the chat feature a little bit as we go. So in terms of the pillars that really make up Collaborate and where we're focused on is, of course, designing entirely for education and supporting education workflows. You've heard Jim talk a lot about the Ultra Design and Ultra Design language. So that is applied to Collaborate, which provides a very modern, intuitive, and entirely browser-based experience. This is one of the key benefits of Collaborate with the Ultra experience is that, as you know, for today's session, you join by simply joining a link. There was nothing to download. There was nothing to install. We are 100% browser-based and support all of the major browsers on the market today. And then, of course, support for fully inclusive learning, which we'll talk a little bit more about in the roadmap as well. So where we've been and where we're going, our initial release was in May 2015, where we really focused our attention on some use scenarios, not all. We focused on office hours and meetings. So around mid last year, Collaborate with the Ultra Experience was mostly piloted over that summer by institutions and sort of early adopter faculty, as an example, tailored around these use scenarios. And then heading into back to school this year, so right around this time frame, we spent most of our attention on the virtual classroom. So features like the ability to poll your students rapidly, like the ability to break students up into smaller groups for different types of sessions. And we'll continue the virtual classroom focus and also shift a little bit into the larger types of webinars or larger classes, like even large lectures as an example, by increasing our session scale. Now, we deliver our roadmap on a monthly basis. So you'll see since the launch in May 2015, I'm not going to go through all of these, but just wanted to point out that every month, the first Saturday of every month is what we aim for. We update Collaborate. You'll see, for example, in July, again, that focus on the virtual classroom. We introduced polling. We updated our Learn 9.1 integration as well, so we made that a lot tighter. and it added some new functionality within the Learn 9.1 integration as well. This Saturday, we'll be introducing breakout groups, so that's our significant feature for the August release. And while we do deliver monthly, our really think about the deployment and the adoption of Collaborate, of course, on their academic schedule, right, in terms of the academic break. So we try to communicate our roadmap in a way that aligns with the academic calendar and the breaks, and what we think is important heading into that next big break to increase adoption, to increase the amount of use scenarios that current faculty and teachers can use Collaborate for. So our roadmap in the term, it remains focused on enhancing the virtual classroom. We're be working on persisting content in the session, so much like Jim was talking about in terms of content, being able to reuse content that I've already used inside of my session, like this slide deck as an example. We could reuse this one in our next roadmap session if we wanted to. We have the ability to record a native MP4 of the Collaborate session today, but some of the interaction elements aren't included today. So what we'll be focusing on in the near term is including the chat in the recording. The recording would be played back much like you're seeing the session experience today, but with a chat along with the timeline of the video. Support for larger classes and lectures, also looking to enhance our Learn 9.1 integration initially with attendance records in the gradebook, also looking at leveraging Learn course groups for both the breakout groups and also to more deeply integrate Collaborate in the Learn experience so that students can jump into their own session, invite people from their groups, etc. Doing some enhancements on the whiteboard, and then we've got some teachers that really want to be able to chat privately with participants and students, so that's an important feature for those folks. We just recently released this refresh on the UI, so you're seeing, as of our July release, the latest UI. We're going to make some additional tweaks on that in the coming August release as well. But in terms of the significant functionality in our roadmap, we're starting off really, as I mentioned, with following the chat inside the recording. So chat will be recorded as part of the collab recording, messages synchronized with the timeline. Students will be able to navigate the recording using their chat messages and then also download that chat transcript as well as the caption transcript, which we support captions today. In terms of hosting larger classes, lectures, and webinars, the visuals that you're seeing here are really around tweaks that we're making to the UI to better support a lot of people. Nothing super exciting there. But what we are excited about is being able to deliver this on some milestones, right? So we're looking at our first milestone of increasing the session size to 250 participants. Right now, we have a limit of 100 participants. So we'll be increasing that to 250 in the near term. And then our second milestone is really supporting 1,000 participants. So Collab, with the original experience, supports up to 1,000 participants today. A lot of web conferencing solutions on the market do the same. And we're really excited about our plan to be able to host larger webinars and very large classes as well. I mentioned enhancements to Learn, and so this is a quick snapshot of leveraging grades in Blackboard Learn. We have a lot of teachers and faculty that want to actually give assignment grades for their participation or their viewing of a session. And so this would give them the ability to do that. If I were attending the session, and if I just opened it and logged out right away, I wouldn't get an attendance grade as an example. And so the teacher can set the percentage of attendance in a session like this as actually for the mark, and then also designate the number of points to send into Learn as well. Dan's going to talk a lot more about mobile. We currently support Collaborate sessions in our BB Student mobile app, and we've begun work on a mobile experience for teachers in our BB Instructor mobile app as well. This is tablet optimized, and from the Collaborate perspective, the ability for an instructor to moderate the session from their tablet device, from their mobile device, do things like recording the session, seeing students with their hands raised, etc. And then in terms of where we're going on our accessibility roadmap, this is just one example, and it's a really awesome example that we've got great feedback on, the ability to really designate a sign language interpreter. So beyond just having a signer show up as the video, really make that person prominent in the experience for the learner that that needs the signing. So the ability to actually designate someone as a signer and as an interpreter and put them side by side with the actual speaker. So the viewer of this would see the actual speaker and the interpreter in real time, much like they would in a live audience. And then in the various modes of Collaborate, whether that be the video conference mode or the content mode, the ability to follow the same. And moving beyond the virtual classroom, some future roadmaps, some things that we're looking at next year timeframe. We're currently designing and researching with strong consideration for next year's reporting. And the idea behind this is really to enable institutional adoption. So we have, as I mentioned, leading up until about now, a lot of early adopters heading into this back to school this fall. We've heard overwhelmingly at BbWorld of how many people we're going to go full on with Collaborate with the Ultra experience, either transitioning from Collaborate with the original experience or just starting with web conferencing. But to really take it beyond, that group of faculty to really support institutional adoption, we're going to be focusing some attention on reporting, some additional sort of thought leadership and assistive technology, learning analytics, authentication, so being able to launch this like from an LDAP rather than through just the LMS, or logging in directly to Collab, the virtual classroom experience, of course, and then the mobile experience for instructors. So like Jim presented here, I'll give you a quick summary. I think the main keys here are that breakout groups is coming in our August release, which is actually shipping this Saturday. We are very close to also being able to support the WebRTC experience for Firefox, which will be a great enhancement, allow Firefox users to be able to do application sharing and some of the other benefits from the WebRTC technology. And then, of course, in development, the chat and recordings and the deeper learn integration are some of the keys that we'd like you to take away. You can also trial Collaborate, so if you haven't had an opportunity to use a new Collaborate other than participating in a session like this, please feel free to go to blackboard.com/collab trial and sign up for a free 30-day trial. Collaborate is also part of the Educator Preview as well, so sign up for the Educator Preview. You also get access to Collaborate through that. And in the interest of time, I'm going to hand off to Dan and let you view these key takeaways as we transition.
Great, thank you so much, Carl. So today I'm going to cover a little bit about our mobile product strategy, look at some of our recently released features on mobile, and then show off some of the kind of new and exciting mobile products that are currently in development right now at Blackboard. So about a year and a half ago, we embarked on a really significant effort to completely reinvent our mobile teaching and learning applications, where we would start to focus our efforts on a more persona-driven application that was tailored from start to finish for instructors and for students, right? So for students, that means a BB Student application that brings together functionality from Blackboard Learn, Collaborate with the Ultra experience, and a new BB Planner product that I'll talk about in just a little bit. And our first product, BB Student, is focused specifically on trying to help students improve in their academics, where Blackboard would start doing a lot of the heavy lifting and be a little bit more proactive with students. For instance, send them push notifications when they need reminders to study or when an assignment is overdue. And with BB Student, it's been available for a little over a year, GA form, and it's a product that's available on iOS, Android, and Windows platforms, Windows Phone and tablet. It supports 27 languages. It's available in 100+ markets and regions. And like Jim said, it supports all the different flavors of Blackboard Learn, self-hosted, managed-hosted, 9.1, or Ultra course styles. And just like Collaborate and Learn, we have releases every single month. So that means that BB Student gets updated with new features, improvements, issue fixes every single month. And when we released BB Student 1.0 in July, we focused on core workflows to help students get access to content, complete assignments, and check their grades. Then in the first half of 2016, we focused our development efforts around connectivity tools. So integrations with Collaborate with the Ultra experience, discussion boards, so students can have discussions with their peers and instructors, asynchronously or synchronously. And in the second half of 2016, we're still going to roll out a lot of new features, but we're making it a point to improve our accessibility for students students that are differently abled, and ensure that BB Student's available in every single market that we serve. And since the release of BB Student 1.0, we've released a ton of functionality, right? It's kind of staggering when you look at it on the chart. As I mentioned, every single month we have new features, improvements, fixes. And what this really gives us is not just a rapid development and release cycle, but it provides our clients and our partners a way that we have a shortened feedback loop between the time issues are reported and the amount of time it takes to actually fix them, right? It's a nice way to get feedback. So I'm going to cover some of the functionality that we released on the first half of this year. As I mentioned earlier, push notifications are one of those really nice pieces of functionality that having a native mobile app allows you to do. And with push notifications, we wanted to specifically target students who are a little more reactive in terms of how they approach their academic pursuits. So we have push notifications to remind students of overdue assignments or when they have upcoming tests and quizzes to do. They also get push notifications for grades. We released discussion board support, so students can have access to Blackboard Learn discussion boards and have robust conversations about relevant topics with peers and instructors, all optimized within mobile. It's a really nice experience. We also released app launches. So if institutions or partners like yourselves have their own partner or have their own native mobile applications or web pages, what we did was allow BB Student to allow launches into BB Student. So that means that if you have a native mobile application and you want to link directly to the activity stream or a particular discussion board or assignment, you can do that right now with BB Student. Right, and integration is pretty easy. We have a schema that's available for anyone to look at online. If you go to help.blackboard.com and you search for BB Student and you look at our admin release notes, you can get a link to a full listing of all the endpoints in which you can integrate your applications or web pages with BB Student. And if you're not familiar with app launches, it's very similar to browsing Google on your phone and seeing a tweet as part of a search result. When you tap it, it opens up Twitter. It's kind of the same idea with BB Student. Nice piece of functionality that we rolled out, I believe, 2 releases ago. As Carl mentioned, Collaborate with support for breakout groups is something that they're going to be releasing very, very soon. BB Student is ready to go. It supports it. So this is a great way for instructors to kind of divvy up the class, let them work on projects in segmented groups all within a single virtual classroom session. BB Student will support it as soon as it goes live on Collaborate on the website. And as I mentioned, we're going to make it a point to really focus on bringing BB Student into every single market we serve. So that means localization, right? So right-to-left language support is a big effort that we're putting forth in the second half of 2016. So those students who speak Arabic or Hebrew will be able to use BB Student in their native language. And as Carl mentioned, we also have a new product that's in development. It's a tablet-first mobile application that's focused on helping instructors quickly grade papers, give feedback to students, really try to minimize the amount of administrative tedium that goes into running a classroom. And we're calling this BB Instructor. And there are really 2 portions of capabilities that we're focused on developing. First, integrations with Collaborate with the Ultra experience. So students right now can access Collab instead of BB Student. Well, soon instructors are going to be able to have the same capabilities as BB Student, plus some moderator capabilities. We're also going to be building out support grading, right? And one of the great things about the BB Instructor application, just like BB, it's going to support Blackboard Learn 9.1, Blackboard SaaS options, and also Ultra and original course styles. Just a nice, easy way for instructors to be able to quickly grade papers and provide feedback. And in the fall, we're going to be introducing a brand new set of capabilities that are focused around student planning. Students have a way to plan their next academic or professional step, and we're calling it BB Planner. Now, BB Planner is going to be a mobile-first application that's actually built inside a BB Student, where students will be able to explore degrees and careers that align to their interests, understand kind of the financial and academic and career implications of some of the decisions they're making, and they'll also be able to register for classes within the application, right, through SIS integrations with the institution. And we'll also be able to have access to internships and jobs that align to their degree or the pathway that they've been choosing. And we'll also have an advisor dashboard, so advisors will be able to monitor and take a look at students' progress within BB Planner. So if we look to the broader mobile roadmap, you can see available now, we still have our mobile learn application, BB Grader, out in the market, BB Student with a ton of features and functionality. In development, I mentioned right to left language support. We're also going to be supporting the Irish language. We'll be doing some updates to our course outline to better aggregate things like announcements and staff listings for students. Deeper integration with Collaborate and Learn. So not just being able to tap on a link to join a session. Within the course, students will be able to join virtual classroom sessions. For BB Planner, they'll be able to explore different career and degree pathway options, be able to see career videos with industry professionals giving feedback and really helping students understand what a specific job looks like and what day-to-day activities are like, and also get in contact with their advisors. For instructor, we're going to be rolling out support for Collaborate and the ability to grade assignments and tests. And in research design, we have a ton of features and functionality. I'm not going to cover each single one. And key takeaways, BB Student is available now in the majority of the markets and regions we support. iOS, Android, Windows Phone, and tablet capable. Supports all the different flavors of Blackboard Learn. Instructor application that's focused on helping instructors grade and communicate with their students for iOS and Android and Windows tablet. And then BB Planner, Blackboard Advise, new capabilities that will be rolling out in the fall. If you want more information about BB Planner, Blackboard Advise, I'm actually going to chat a link to a site that contains some more information. Feel free to browse that. There's a form on the bottom that goes to our team that's working on BB Planner if you'd like some more information about it. And the last thing I'm going to mention is our Blackboard community site. A great resource for having conversations with institutions, with Blackboard team members, and with other partners. This is something that we at Blackboard look at every single day and have had some really great success and some ideas, just like Jim said, that have come out of these types of posts on the community side. That does it for our presentation. Kathy, I'm going to kick it back to you.
Okay, great. If anyone does have any questions, you can click on the microphone on the bottom of your screen, and that will allow you to talk. We'll give everybody just a minute to see if there are any open questions. And I'll share my video since Carl shamed me into it. Okay. If not, thank you all for your time. As I said, we will be doing another webinar similar to this in the September timeframe, a little bit more technical around some of the REST APIs and LTI wrappers. So thank you all very much for your time, and thanks to our speakers for presenting. Have a good day, everyone.